can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Hello and welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by one of the finer boxing brains on the channel, Elliot Grigg. Elliot, we're here. Final prediction mode. It's one of the biggest fights of the year, arguably for some. It's definitely the biggest fight weekend of the year, and it won't be topped for a long, long time, in my opinion. Obviously, we do have Canelo Crawford, but we're not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss the monster, Naoya Inoue fighting. Apologies for the pronunciation, but Murodjon Akhmadaliev. Um, as always, Elliot, thank you for joining me. We'll go straight into the predictions. Inoue 30 and 0, one of the biggest punchers in the sport at the moment, fighting Akmadaliev, who Eddie Hearn has almost claimed Inoue has been running from. So here we are. How do you see this fight going? Is it another scintillating KO for Inoue? Can Akmadaliev do the unthinkable, or is it just going to be business as usual?
Yeah, first off, mate, thank you very much for having me on as usual, and a lovely, eloquent introduction there as well. Pronunciation sounded perfect to me. I think, yeah, for me, I think, yeah, Eddie Hearn's obviously, obviously an elite salesman, but I think I look at this fight, I see, Inoue Super Bantam's kind of cleaned out the division really. He's fought pretty much everyone other than Akhmadaliev, so people, sort of going, okay, is this the sort of fight? This one we've kind of wanted for a little while, but equally it's just almost to kind of close the loop, and then he can maybe move up to the next division, maybe fight someone like Nick Ball, or we seem to be talking about a lot on the channel, that sort of fight, maybe try and get a belt up there. So for me, I actually see this. I do see this as being an Inoue victory. I do. I think obviously like Akhmadaliev also carries power, doesn't he? Like both of these guys can hit obviously hard, but I think Inoue's has got too much, frankly, by way of talent, setting up the shots as well. I actually think he'll stop at Medvedev. I really do. I think we're looking here at another KO victory for the monster. To be perfectly honest with you, and I think it's going to be Eddie Hearn will have to sort of slink quietly into the dusk after it happens. But yeah, Inoue versus by KO for me. I think it'll be somewhere maybe sort of late actually, maybe somewhere sort of 8+, maybe 8, 9, 10, that sort of range. But I think I'll get it done eventually.
Yeah, I completely agree with yourself. I'm gonna have to make it 2-0 to Inoue. I think I know, as you say, Eddie Hearn's a fantastic salesman, but if anyone even bought into the narrative Inoue was running from Akhmadaliev for more than a split second and come back around to realise Essex is, finest upgraded car salesman, to one of the has made Matchroom Boxing a global company. Isn't just satire, then here we are. But for me, Inoue, he's just far too good for anyone in that division. I know we almost sound like a broken record on this channel, and I will be leading into the next question of obviously Inoue moving up, but I just don't see anyone getting near him. I think he's far too good. He's proved he can step up to the weight, and he's swept up. So any questions that were asked were comfortably answered. So for ourselves, it's a new knockout, and I will join you. I believe rounds 8, rounds 9. I think that's the perfect time frame for the KO for me. As I said, we do almost sound like broken records on the channel, Elliot. Inoue swept up in multiple divisions now. Is it time that Inoue moves up one final division, goes up to featherweight, and fights the likes of a Nick Ball in what would be a super fight on British shores, at least?
Yeah, I think this is probably the limit for him. I think he moves up one more time, fights up there. I think someone like Oza, I think in general, I don't have any doubt what's going to pick up a world title there, and I think the fight against Nick Ball would be massive. I think it's interesting because obviously you have Nick Ball doesn't have the boxing ability of Naoya Inoue. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think anyone's saying that he does, but what he does have is obviously he's natural at that weight, big at that weight as well, and durable at that weight. So I think possibly it could be quite a tough test for Inoue, but I actually probably, to be honest with you, back Inoue to come to prevail there as well. But I do think beyond that. I think super featherweight's a bit too much for him, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, some sort of Navarrete and all those sort of guys as well could catch. I think those guys are actually a bit too big for him. So for me, I think there's maybe one more.
Yeah, I completely agree with yourself. I think featherweight isn't a step too far. I think especially like you said, when you look at the likes of Nick Ball, who's had great success at the weight so far, his boxing brain is 25, 50 times that of Nick Ball's. Obviously Nick Ball does have the power, but is he going to be able to catch Inoue? Not for me. One question that we haven't really asked much of Inoue on the channel is, should Inoue go up another weight and become world champion, whether he becomes undisputed, unified, or whether it's just one champion, when he retires, where does he list in the greats of the sport for yourself? I know it's a difficult question, but we're talking four weight, we could be talking five weight world champion, two weight undisputed guaranteed, potentially three weight undisputed. He's doing what people thought would almost be not impossible, but to keep going up from, like bantamweights all the way through. I think it was super flyweight as well at one point, which is ridiculous to even consider being at featherweight. Would he rank within the greatest? Top 10, top 5, top 3? Where would you have Naoya Inoue?
So brutal. It's such a brutal question. So hard, isn't it? I think he's almost hampered a bit by the fact that he's obviously started in those really low weights,
Mhm.
which I think those really light weights, which does hurt you in those kind of debates. So if you look at someone like sort of Usyk, I saw a lot of people on socials recently that were sort of arguing the fact that even Usyk might not even be top five or might even be top type all time, and you're sitting there going, that's surprising. For me, I would have Usyk up there. But then you look at like the likes of Crawford, Canelo, like modern grades. If Crawford beats Canelo, for example, then he becomes up three-time undisputed. Does he become in that? He probably comes in that conversation, but he's done it in different weight classes, higher weight classes. So I think for me, I think you'd have to have Inoue probably be like almost like fringe top 10 probably if he moves up and win more like. And you got to think about the likes of like Pacquiao, all those sort of guys. Obviously, Pacquiao went up like eight weights. Obviously, and Floyd, all those other guys. It feels like Inoue kind of wouldn't necessarily get the respect I don't think when he retires that he possibly does deserve. Especially when you look at how he kind of blasted through those lower weights and blasted through those champions. But I would have him kind of he'd probably be outside the top 10, but somewhere 10 to 20, I think, to be honest with you. He's kind of where I'd sit him, even though like he is a modern great. I think when you look back, people go, oh, they mention, guys that were fighting on sort of, sepia film or fighting on, on sort of freak shows in the Victorian era or whatever. People always seem like the historians like to bring out, but for me, I think it'd be somewhere 10 to 20, yeah, just because it's a lower weight, frankly. I think that's what will sort of count against him.
Yeah, do you know what? I actually think you're spot on. I completely agree with yourself. I think personally he should be in the top 10. But I think when it comes to the debates, if he was doing what he was doing at, say, lightweight, super lightweight, welterweight, through to sort of like junior middle, those sort of weights, then I think he would be spoken about in not a different regard, but I think he would be spoken about more. I think it took probably more fights than it should have for him to get superstar status and people to realise what an elite boxer he is. And unfortunately, that is, like you say, that's a problem sometimes with those lower weights. They don't quite get the recognition um, as the bigger guys, and sometimes they can be better fights. So I think he is someone where once he finally hangs the gloves up, we will be looking back on him fondly as a great career, but probably especially with the casual fan, will miss out on the credit he deserves. But Elliot, that's all we have time for. With Naira Inoue, we could go all day. There's a million and one different questions we could talk about. But let us know down below in the comments, guys. Do you agree with both of myself and Elliot that Inoue will knock Akhmadaliev out? Do you think it will go to points, or do you think Akhmadaliev can be the one to finally tame the monster? Elliot, once again, thank you for joining me, and have a great night.
Thank you very much, guys. As always, thank you very much for watching.